Think about the biggest mistake you ever made. Or maybe not the biggest mistake, but just one where you remember a funny result or consequence. Would you go back and change anything? One last question. If Jesus were with you right in that moment, would you have said anything to him? What would you say? In the past couple of weeks, we've discussed two people who had interactions with Jesus that changed them forever. One, a Samaritan woman about 2,000 years ago, and another, a person in Madison, Wisconsin, in present day. Today we're talking about a third person who had a transformative encounter with Jesus. He met Jesus on a famous day that Christians have remembered for thousands of years as Good Friday. Good Friday focuses on how and why Jesus died. For over 2,000 years, the global church has used this day to recognize the suffering and execution of Jesus from Nazareth, a real-life historical figure we believe walked this earth in a real-life body, who ate real-life food, had real-life family, friends, who had a job, who was a teacher, a healer, but most of all, God himself walking a perfect, real life. Part of his plan in coming into human society in a human body was a hard, literal, painful, torturous death. And this pain and suffering and darkness is the whole vibe of Good Friday. So then why do we call it good? Well, we're going to learn about the goodness of Jesus as he identifies with outcasts on a Friday that would otherwise be pretty bad. Let's start our discussion by praying. Jesus, we believe that 2,000 years ago when you suffered and died, that wasn't the end of the story, and that you came back to life. That today even, you are alive and not far away, but you are alive and close to us, even in this room in your spirit. Would your spirit be obvious to our hearts and our minds, and would our hearts and our minds be able to sense and be comforted by your spirit, a living Jesus? Amen. Here's what Good Friday means to people around the world. Jesus was in what's many of our worst nightmare. A crowd that 1 week earlier was Jesus' massive supporters was now forming an angry mob chanting to execute Jesus. Jesus' closest friends had all fled because being with Jesus offended powerful people. And even Peter, one of Jesus' closest friends and disciples, who promised that he would even die for Jesus, was afraid. His family was not by his side. He had been tried by a corrupt court, by corrupt leaders of law, of government, and of religion, who were looking out for their own interests. They even released a notorious criminal, Barabbas, from prison instead of releasing Jesus, an innocent man that they had convicted only with many false witnesses who were bribed into making up alt facts about who Jesus was and what he actually said. As a result, Jesus was falsely sentenced to flogging and crucifixion, horrible torture and execution in public in front of everybody. Now let me read Luke 23 from my Bible, and you can flip with me there. Luke chapter 23, so that's the big number 23. And then we'll be looking starting from the small number 33. So we'll be in chapter 23, starting in verse 33. When they came to the place called the Skull, there they crucified him and the criminals, one on the right and one on the left. But Jesus was saying, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." And they cast lots, dividing up his garments among themselves, and the people stood by looking on. And even the rulers were sneering at him, saying, "He saved others. Let him save himself if this is the Christ of God, his chosen one." The soldiers also mocked him, coming up to him, offering him sour wine, and saying, "If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself." Now, there's an inscription above him too. "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals who were hanged there was hurling abuse at him, saying, "Are you not the Christ? Save yourself and us." But the other answered and rebuking him said, "Do you not even fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? And we indeed are suffering justly, for we are receiving what we deserve for our deeds. But this man has done nothing wrong." And he was saying, "Jesus, remember me when you come in your kingdom." And he said to him, "Truly I say to you, today you shall be with me in paradise." Now, here's what we don't know. We don't know the names of the two criminals. We don't know how old they were. We don't know what specific crimes they were crucified for, though some other translations of the Bible do clue us into them being thieves. We do know our thieves probably heard a lot about Jesus prior to this moment. He was the talk of the town and had a huge reputation of teaching, of healing, of going toe-to-toe with the religious establishment. And we see that the two thieves had different responses to what they knew about Jesus. One thief responded in anger and resentment. He seemed to recall that Jesus is known to be powerful and demands, "Save yourself and us. Jesus, use your power how I would use it if I had it." The other thief also acknowledges that Jesus has great power. Indeed, he believes Jesus has a kingdom, and at the same time acknowledges Jesus is completely separate and different from them, being good and innocent. He must have remembered that Jesus loved including the marginalized, calling people to be spiritually whole during his lifetime and his teaching. There was a chance that even now, Jesus might accept him, a criminal, cut off from society and soon from life. Being fully convinced of this, he confidently asks Jesus to remember him in Jesus' inevitable victory. "Jesus, remember me." That's what he says. Though this thief's body was stretched out on a cross, you can picture him mentally and spiritually bending the knee in allegiance to King Jesus. Even on the brink of death, this thief had an incredible opportunity to meet and speak to Jesus directly because Jesus was right there next to him, a thief and marginalized outcast in the lowest moment of his life. It was no coincidence that he happened to be crucified on the same specific day that God himself in the flesh was also being crucified. Jesus was there on purpose. He's God. The corrupt leaders commanding his execution thought they were so in charge. Listen to Jesus. Jesus was in control of his situation. He knew exactly where he was and why he was there. He had a purpose. Jesus comes to make his place with us outcasts. He suffered, he was misjudged, so that he could be with us in our lowest moment, ready for us when we turn to him to speak directly to him. We are not in the darkness alone. We don't need to go out searching for God. He is right here in the painful moments, in the lonely moments. Moments when we're feeling most judged, fearful, exhausted, maybe close to death. Listen to Jesus' response to the thief's request. "Truly, I say to you, today you shall be with me in paradise." Hear Jesus' words. He didn't just teach us facts with his words about what God is like. While his body was hanging up on the cross, Jesus was in the middle of throwing open the door for lonely, misjudged outcasts like the thief, maybe even like us, to being with him, the King with a kingdom of forgiveness, of goodness, of beauty, of truth. He invites us into a relationship where we can know him and be known by God and God's people, not as we pretend to be, but as we truly, really are. This is the goodness of Good Friday, that this invitation is open for us as we're reading the Bible 2,000 years later. I invite you to say yes to Jesus right now or whenever you're ready. Talk to your group and with your leader about what it means and what it could look like to accept the invitation, to say yes to the truth, that you don't have to go anywhere or do anything to clean yourself up before Jesus wants to be with you. Jesus wants you. God, we hold this moment as sacred. You are here. You are with us. We don't have to do anything special or impressive, say any fancy words. Before Jesus, you come to be with us.